The next of the gunpowder empires we're going to look at is the Safavid Empire. So the Safavid Empire was originally founded by a Sufi mystic named Sayyid al-Din, and he kind of laid the foundations for the not just Safavid Empire, but for their religious beliefs as well. But kind of the early high point of the empire is going to come under Shah Ismail. Shah Ismail was exiled when he was young. He basically lives in the swamps for 5 years, building up power until eventually returning and claiming the ancient Persian title of Shah. And he's then going to lead the Safavid Empire. And the Safavid Empire, they're going to practice a unique version of Shi'ism. So the Ottoman Empire, they were Sunni Muslims. The Safavids were Shia. And not just Shia, but they practice a version of Shi'ism called Twelver Shi'ism. And so under this idea of Twelver Shi'ism, there had been these 12 ancient imams. And an imam is just a religious official, a religious leader. And the belief was that this 12th imam was a hidden imam. And one day he would return to bring greatness to followers of Twelver Shi'ism. And so at times, Shah Ismail claimed to be this 12th hidden imam. At other times, he didn't. But that was kind of the version of Shi'ism that the Safavids practiced. And because they were Shia, that also meant that they were in constant conflicts with the Ottomans, who they shared a border with. And so both sides fought with each other throughout the entire time of their empires. And so this conflict is going to continue and kind of culminate with a famous battle called the Battle of Calderon. And at the Battle of Calderon, the Safavid Empire is almost completely wiped out. The Ottomans were using far more European weapons at this time. At first, there were groups in the Safavid Empire who basically saw European weapons and guns as unmanly. And so some refused to use them. And what cannons and guns that the Safavids did have were tied up in battles they were fighting in the eastern part of their empire. And so they go into this Battle of Calderon with basically no guns and cannons. And so they tried to counter the Ottoman Empire's European weapons with cavalry charges and superior military tactics, but ultimately it wasn't enough. And they get completely annihilated at the Battle of Calderon. And the Ottoman Empire pushes into the Safavid Empire as a result, but they don't pursue Shah Ismail, and they aren't able to reach the capital. And so ultimately the Safavid Empire is going to survive. And so Shah Ismail, after the Battle of Calderon, kind of secludes himself, and he spends the rest of his days kind of isolated in the palace. But one of his successors, Shah Abbas the Great, is going to restore and revitalize the Safavid Empire. And he's going to modernize the military. And he wasn't content just to bring in European weapons and guns. He actually brought Europeans in as well to show them how to use those guns and weapons and show them the newest tactics that were being used back in Europe. They also built a new capital at Isfahan that becomes a little more centrally located. He improves the bureaucracy and models the bureaucracy after older Persian governing techniques. Again, we've talked about this many times. The Persians were always known for good government. And so they copied that and actually used Persians in their bureaucracy and create a strong centralized government. And so Shah Abbas the Great is going to rebuild and revitalize the Safavid Empire.